All right, say hey, Gus. I believe Gus is going to sleep this one out. It's Gus and Alan again. I just want to talk for a few minutes about what's on my mind, which is generally spiritual matters and biblical things and stuff like that. But talk a little bit about, or more about, the misuse of the Bible and how it's easy to tell, how you can easily spot, the false prophet and how the Bible is misused. When let's say you could take someone who's a horrible criminal, someone a mass murderer or something like that, put him in a suit and send him off on his way, and he can quote out of as long as he can read the English language, he can quote out of the Bible. He can tell anybody what the Bible says, this and that. You could take a decent, upright person and put them in the same suit and give them the same Bible, and they can go on about their way quoting the Bible. It's about in the interpreter or the person saying it. How was I say? Because anything in the Bible, especially quotes that are used to weaponize, like Paul said this and Jesus said that and everything. Any quote that people say from in the Bible, you can find a quote out of the same Bible that contradicts what the quote that's being weaponized or whatever says. And then at that point, the person who's doing the quoting can say, "Oh well, what I'm talking about means in the natural, and your contradictory quote means spiritual, or what I'm talking about is in the spiritual, and what your contradictory quotes means in the natural," because that's the only excuse that they have for these contradictions, and all that does is shine a light on the let's say arbitration, or the it's like who so you're saying that you have the final say so. It's all about personal beliefs and everything, but when people quote the misuse of the Bible and weaponizing of it, I think what would be a good idea is to, or here, let me back up. The Bible has one basic message. It could be titled "Love One Another," and apparently, today's society needs directions on how to do that. If a subtitle would be "Feed the Hungry and Help the Needy." It says that quite often in the Bible. That's like one of the main things that it touches on. And it doesn't say, only help the needy as long as they don't have an alcohol problem, or as long as they don't have a drug problem, or only feed the poor so much until they start coming to your church and this and that. It's there's a way to be human. I think if the Bible were removed, now hear me out, uh, for only take a group of Christians, or I would say preachers, they're false prophets. That's the difference. Um, um, if you took their Bible from them for, say, let's say 6 months or even a month, and what I mean by that is see how they live their life. Would they still congregate at their churches? And if they did, what would they talk about or do while they were there? Would they still go about the streets trying to recruit people to their religion? Or would they be forced, if you took their Bible and the ideas away, would they be forced to actually help people on a human level, which can't be defined? Said the Bible doesn't say exactly how to feed and help the poor and needy, because it's something that you should, it's again a case by case basis. You can't put it down into one set of directions. And I think the whole anything that the Bible talks about, it's like that. But if I were on the side of the road, homeless or something, and somebody comes up to me, and when people start quoting the Bible, and again, I'm not saying that everybody has bad intentions, but it's just been misused by so many as a pride and an ego thing, and a way to prove, I'm right because the Bible says, I'm right because the Bible says. And again, you can always contradict anything that the Bible says. But if I was, homeless on the side of the road, and someone come up and started saying, well, Paul said this and Paul said that, or Jesus said this and Jesus said that, I would have to, say, okay, well, what do you say about the situation? How do you feel about it? And if they have nowhere else to go except to their Bible and repeat or copy something that someone else has said, it kind of, that says something about their character. If they're able to shut their Bible, set it down to the side, and say, okay, and talk to you on a human level, I will be much more apt to hearing what they had to say about what was in that book than if they come up just running to that book for everything. And again, it might shake a lot of people up, but that's, I think, what we're here to do, because it's just there's a lack of love. It's just oh goodness, where we at? About 5 minutes. I want to keep this video kind of short, but it's, who's the final arbiter to say, you got one group of people that say, well, it means that and this and this and that. And then you've got another group of people that says, well, it means this and that and that and this. Then you've got endless groups of people that have endless definitions of what different parts of the Bible means. It's like, and to see each one of them in the group, in particular, what I'd call the false prophets or most preachers that I've met that cling to their version of it, just as much as someone clings to the Sabbath is on Saturday, another group clings to it being on Sunday, and then another group clings to, it's like, well, what's your work schedule? If you're called into work and you're going to lose your job unless you go in, does that mean that you can break the Sabbath? And if that's so, then that voids out all of these concrete rules, and you ought to know how to live life without having to have use the Bible as a when I say as a go-to, because again, it is very helpful in some ways, but the way that it's looked at and used now, I mean, there's a way of being. Jesus walked around, and I don't know that he carried a Bible with him recruiting for the church. And honestly, I'd say he tried to avoid most people. As a matter of fact, I don't know. It's just something to think about. But anybody who has a grasped, locked-in concept that says, "Oh, this is what this and that verse means," they hold to it just as tight as another group that finds a different meaning in that verse, and they hold to it just as tight. They put their barriers up, and that's not what I don't think that a good use of the Bible, or I won't say good or bad because that's judging, but that's a small-minded use of the Bible. Again, I'll say last thing, if if somebody's wanting to witness to me and I were to ask them how, well, let's just touch base. There's a way that humans can exist and love one another and be in harmony and everything just absolutely fine without the Bible. I think if they were existing in that way, the Bible, it can be profitable in some ways, but it's just overall used in a way. It's ridiculous. It's like seeing groups of children, these different religions that cling to what this means and what that means, and then but they're all focused on either the events that happened 2,000 or 5,000 years ago, or what's going to happen after you die. They always skip over the present moment, which again, I knock a lot of these false prophets, I preachers, who wouldn't be able to go into a bar room and sit at the bar for 2 minutes without just exploding. I'm a preacher. Y'all are going to hell, or y'all are doing wrong. Show me one that would be able to go in there and sit and mingle with the people without saying that, oh, I don't appreciate that language, who would be able to actually mingle like Jesus did with the people. And then I'll say, okay, well, what do you think about it? Then I would be interested in maybe some of the thoughts they had on the Bible. But when there's this high and mighty division, when a preacher man or a bishop or a pastor or a deacon or whatever, out of the 7 days a week that they have, if they spend 2 or 3 of those evenings out of those days gathered up with a bunch of people at their church whom already claim to be, on their way to heaven or this and that, or they're trying to invite people at work every now and then to church. If they spend more time gathered there than they do out in the field with people, I just think I think it ought to be the other way around, but I think a lot of things, and I'll keep talking about it because ain't nobody going to shut me up. I appreciate y'all listening. Where we at? I want to keep the video kind of short. Gus, say bye, Gus. I think he's still asleep. Yeah, thanks for watching, and try to be nice to one another. And I would love to talk about any of these things, in particular with a hung up. Never mind. But yeah, I'm always open to any questions or anything and anywhere. Yeah, just try to be nice to one another. I think that's it.